Hey, I'm Bobby Rio, and today I want to talk to you about how to have really great first dates and how to start a date with a woman in a way that almost guarantees a good time. See, I used to absolutely hate going on dates. A few years back, I was big into online dating, and I was literally going on 3 or 4 dates a week, and I was miserable. I would find myself bored, anxious, intimidated, and usually severely disappointed. And worse was, I rarely got laid. I want to tell you this story about a realization I had that made me go from absolutely dreading going on dates to not only start enjoying them, but very often finding myself in bed with the woman by the time the night was over. I remember when I used to believe that a date was formal, sacred encounter where you had to portray yourself as the perfect gentleman, and your sole responsibility was to not fuck it up, and to prove emphatically to the woman that you were not interested in sex. Isn't that what most of us were taught? I mean, doesn't it make sense that women want a respectful, nice guy who isn't looking for a one-night stand? You would think so. But when I really started to pay close attention, I started to notice a few things. First of all, the harder I tried to impress a woman on a date, the less likely I was to get a second date. Also, my timidness that I thought was putting a woman at ease was actually making her more nervous and less likely to open up to me. And the more formal and gentlemanly I made the date, the more we grew bored with each other and would quickly run out of things to say. But some guys just don't learn, and I was one of them. You'd think that after going on nearly 50 dates over the span of a few months that I would have caught on to what I was doing wrong. But I was like a retarded person, continually banging my head up against a brick wall. Finally, after a date which ended with me faking diarrhea, seriously, to avoid paying for another meal with a woman who was clearly not going to sleep with me anytime soon, I decided that I needed to formulate a new game plan if I was going to continue going on so many dates. Around this time, I'd begun reading some dating advice websites and read that dinner dates are bad. I was told I should be taking women for coffee or ice cream instead. But changing the environment of the date had little impact on my success. We were still two bored, nervous people, only now we were sipping coffee instead of digging into pasta dishes. In fact, it was worse, because now we didn't have the food to distract us from our boredom. I want to tell you about the date that changed everything. I finally decided to cancel my Match.com membership and take a break for a while. I'd been talking to this cute Portuguese girl for a couple weeks and figured I would make her my last date before I called it quits. Our email exchanges were pretty mundane and boring, so I held little hope that this date would turn into anything. In fact, by the time the day rolled around, I had pretty much forgotten about it. When I got a phone call from her confirming that we were still on, I was smack in the middle of celebrating Cinco de Mayo with a group of my buddies at happy hour. I had a nice margarita buzz and decided rather than cancel on the poor girl, I would just meet her for a few drinks, meet up with my buddies again later. I got her to go to the lounge. I got to the lounge that I was meeting her at a little bit beforehand, and I was still feeling good from my tequila buzz, so I began chatting up the bartender. My mood spiked, and feeling good about my interaction with the bartender, I felt oddly relaxed. So when Marissa showed up, I was loose, energetic, and completely unattached to the outcome of the date. Fresh from a really entertaining conversation with my friends, I was in no mood for small talk, so I just jumped right into repeating a funny story my friend had told me about a custody battle him and his ex were in over a goldfish. Seriously. As I was telling her the story, instead of putting on my timid guy demeanor, I began treating her like we were longtime lovers, touching her when we talked, taking her hand to lead her to the table, and holding eye contact for a split second longer than I normally felt comfortable doing. And she followed my lead. Instead of bombarding me with normal interview-style questions I get from the dozens of other girls I had gone out with, she went right into swapping funny stories with me. And when the conversation took an unexpected sexual turn, instead of turning into a celibate monk, a role I usually played when the topic of sex came up on a date, I casually chatted about some of my previous sexual encounters and made no effort to hide the fact that, yes, I like sex. The date ended with a long, passionate make-out session in my car. It was the first good date I had since my college years. At first, I just talked it up to the fact that she was a cool girl. But the more I thought about it, the more I came to the realization it was everything I did that brought that side out of her. And a more empowering thought came to my mind. What if I can get the same results with all my dates? So for the next couple days, I replayed the night in my mind and took notes of exactly what made the dates so different. And I realized I did 5 key things within the first 5 minutes. Here are the 5 key elements of a good date. 1. I assumed rapport, which let us skip the boring get-to-know-you chit-chat that would crush the momentum of my previous dates. I set the frame of the date. Instead of waiting for the woman to dictate what was acceptable behavior on the date, I basically displayed to her, this is what the date's gonna be like. Next, I played offense instead of defense. Instead of just trying not to offend her, I instead actively attempted to make the date fun. I initiated touching immediately, which made the makeout session much easier later on since she was already comfortable with my hands touching her. And finally, I dropped the act and was myself. I like drinking. I like sex. I like to tell funny stories. Yet oddly, this was the first date where I allowed myself to express this part of my personality. As I looked over the 5 techniques on my list, it began to all come together. Fun. That is all you're responsible for creating on a date. And more importantly, you are the one responsible for creating it. A woman's going to follow your lead on a date. If you act nervous, she'll act nervous. If you hide your personality, she'll hide her personality. If you take on the role of stranger, she'll act like a stranger. If you come across as a celibate monk, she'll hide her sexual side too. However, the opposite is just as true. If you're cool, calm, and comfortable, she'll be cool, calm, and comfortable. If you express your true personality, she'll express hers. If you assume rapport right from the beginning, she'll act like she's known you for years. If you're comfortable with your sexuality, she'll be comfortable with hers. So do you enjoy your dates? If you find yourself going on dead-end dates, rarely sparking a connection with a woman, or can't seem to progress physically with the woman you're dating, then your first step is to look at the role you're playing on the date. Are you playing the role of the fun, laid-back, sexual guy, or are you playing the role of the boring, stiff, celibate guy? I think if you pay close attention, you'll notice that women are just following your lead. While you may think women just aren't responding to you, more than likely you're training them to behave that way. Here's proof you can try for yourself. I have a simple exercise that I want you to try the very next date you go on. I want you to treat the woman you go out with like she's an old friend you've known for years. Everything you do should convey this attitude, the smile you give when you greet her, your level of comfort talking to her, your level of comfort touching her, the amount of your personality you share with her. When you meet the girl to begin the date, instead of starting off with boring small talk, jump right into a humorous story that has happened to you or someone you know recently. When she tells you a story about her life, instead of jumping into interview mode and asking questions, make statements like, "That's just like you to do that," or "I can totally see you acting this way." Treat her like an old friend. When you begin to do this, not only will you begin looking forward to dates, as you'll be enjoying them much more, but you'll also find that women will eat this up. This is completely different than what most guys do, which makes your fun seem even more impressive and powerful. The fact is, turning small talk fun and having the ability to express your personality in a quirky and exciting way is crucial to connecting with women. If you want women to feel attraction towards you, you must first get them comfortable enough to open up around you. And the easiest way to do this is by creating a fun atmosphere. After years of studying this topic, I put together a complete package on creating fun, playful, and sexual conversations with women. And I want to give it to you free. It's called Make Small Talk Sexy: Conversation Tactics. And you can get the entire course free at makesmalltalksexy.com. In this 27-page